Right, I got quite a bit of progress to update on. So I'm going to get going on that. Since the last time I did a video, I was refining the player controls and also enemies and stuff like that, and I got a bit more game flow kind of going. So I got here, I just made a quick sprite of a guy that's running because I wanted a run animation, and he's got like an ability. It controls like something like Diablo would if you were a ranged character, and you can sort of kite the enemies, like run away and shoot behind you. So I'm kind of sticking with that, and I've got it to feel quite nice now. In this scene there's like 3 entities really, the player entity, an enemy, and the projectile, and then the player and the enemies have multiple states and animation states. I reused the code to walk to a position and rotate to a position as a separate component, and then there's some other things that I need to break out into different components to make them reusable, like the sprites and all the animations for the sprites are kind of a bit hard coded within the logic update of the enemy and the player, and I want to change that. So also during this time I got depth tests working, so I had to do all that into the command buffer and the rendering API and the engine, but it's quite nice now. I can throw stuff in quite easily and start looking at some gameplay behavior. Actually, to the side on the right here, I've got this window, and there's a value here called tweaker, which is 66, and in the source code I can show you where that is. I'm in release mode, going to debug mode. If I stick a breakpoint, okay, tweak test is the value here, that's 66, it's just a regular float. I got this tweak interface thing that I had in my old engine. I'm going to refactor it a bit, but you call register tweakvar with the type and a pointer to the data, and then some naming information. One's the group and one's the name of the variable. I should probably change the name to something that's the same. Group name, var name. Call it test tweak. So it starts at value 66, and if I run the game, see that tweak test is 66, and I just let it carry on running, and I need to sort this out so it appears in a better place. But tweak test tweak is a value of 66, so if I change this to 129 for example, and then I go back into the debugger and then I check out the value of test tweak, it is 129. So that's pretty handy to be able to tweak variables. These need to be atomic types. I need to sort that out at the moment. It was just a quick test and it does work for a float, but you don't want to get like a teared read or something like that, and cause any coherency issues by using a regular float. So I'm going to refactor it, but the principle is that I can register any old variable to this tweak interface and manipulate it, so it'll make, for example, if the player's walking around, I could improve his, increase his movement speed and see how it feels, and do the same for enemies. So it's a useful tool, and it's quite easy to use. I just initialize it and I register a tweakvar. Now I'm going to go through how that works. So simply I have a header. here. This is an unmanaged header. I called it PSCL. It was polymonster's communication layer or something. I can't remember what the S means. That was in my old engine. So it's quite simple. It's a namespace with a class in it, and it looks like a normal C++ function. You supply the DLL define, which is to import or export the function, because it's managed code. You have to build a DLL, but then you can't use that DLL inside another project. You have to use the exported function prototypes, and it makes a lib. So it was fairly convoluted to get this working. I've used this system before of using C++, managed C++, and C# together. So you use managed C++ as the communication layer between C# and C++, so you can interact with because managed C++ can handle unmanaged and managed code. So just basically a function that I call from this game side, register a tweakvar. At the moment, that's all it is. This will maybe change depending on what I need. So I include a header and a lib for these functions, and they're built in a new project called PED for polymonster editor. So in here, I've got the most complicated pre-make configuration that I've done before, I think. And pre-make actually made it fairly straightforward compared to doing this all in the Visual Studio's properties dialog. So there is 3 projects that get built as part of this system because of how they reference each other. There's one I call PED Forms, which is a C# project. It's just a C# shared lib, so it's a DLL. It's called C# class library, I think, if you do it through the Visual Studio dialog. I got ped_m, which means the managed version of managed C++. And then I've got ped unmanaged, which is, well, it has some unmanaged C++, but it can be called from the managed unmanaged C++ code, which is the game. All pretty complicated. I'm getting confused just talking about it. So I'll check out this solution. It might become a bit clearer. Right, so I've got in here 3 projects. Ped Forms C#, Ped Managed, which is managed C++, Ped Unmanaged, which is unmanaged C++ in a header, and managed C++ in a CPP file. So previously there was the register tweakvar, which is in the header. Now, as you can see in there, it's calling managed code, a string. Use these little caret symbols to, it's like a pointer, a reference version of a string, and use gc new as the garbage collector. Garbage collector new, it stands for. I've been using WinRT and C++ CX recently, quite a bit of work for Xbox One, and it's basically the same as managed C++ in a lot of ways. The syntax is very similar, and it's annoying that you have to use it because I'm just constantly interacting between C++ and managed code, and it's annoying. So here's the implementation of these functions, and then what happens is in the register tweakvar, take the parameters from C++, like the pointer of the variable lpvar, and then I pass them into another class of tweakvars, which is a list of tweakvars, and a tweakvar is a managed class, and it stores a pointer to the data, the type and bytes and information for the data. It has a set function which just does a mem copy into that memory. So it could be any type, and I could use an atomic int and then cast it, mem copy in a flow, and then mem copy it out on the other side. I'm going to have to make sure this is all going to be thread safe, because the Windows threads are running in a separate thread, and then there's callbacks and things that come from buttons, which is kind of handled by the system. So that's an important issue to still look at, making all this thread safe. But I got tweakvar type, and let's see what else. I haven't looked at this code for a little while, so I'm just remembering it myself, really. So we create a tweakvar of type, push it back into a list, and then we add this tweakvar to the editor, which is a C# class. So we go from C++, we pass in the pointer to the data. In managed C++, we keep a list and an unmanaged and managed type of that data. Then we pass that class into C#, and basically what it does on initialize, it shows a form, and for every single item that gets added, it creates a new tab based on the group name, or it adds it to an existing tab, and then it adds an entry to the list, so it'll automatically work out the position of a box, so they appear in a list and they don't overlap and stuff. It's kind of automated. You don't have to do any C# like designer stuff. And then I have in the C# editor like tweak control, which is a control. It's just a name label. Float box, I think this is the right one. Okay, yeah, so name label and numeric up down, and they just get put onto a tab control basically. So it's a really simple bit of code. It just puts appends these into a list, and when the message is received for value changed, is that in here? I'm just trying to find where the value changed callback is. I can't remember. But basically when the numeric up down value changes, there's a callback, and it sets the value of the C++ float that we register as a tweakvar. It mem copies in the value in the numeric up down box into that memory. It's a very simple system, and it gives me really nice flexibility to extend that, because WinForms and C# is pretty useful and fast to develop with, I think, for doing stuff like dealing with files and parsing strings and, you know, kind of stuff you would want to do in an editor, and where the performance of the code isn't as critical as like a game. So I've got this framework in place, and I haven't really used it to great effect yet, but that's where I got up to last night. That's working. The project configuration is that the C# forms and managed, these are all shared libs, so they build DLLs, and then the DLL export on the header of these functions creates a lib for us to use in the C++ game. Alongside all this stuff, I've improved things like added atomic types to the definitions header, and tidied up and refactored bits and pieces of the game code. So it's going pretty well, I think. I've made some good progress. It's been difficult to keep up with the videos because they're quite time consuming, so I think I'm going to do more just sort of summary ones like this now I've actually got more stuff that I'm doing and more stuff to talk about. But I think that's about it, really. I'm going to get on now and start doing more gameplay stuff and adding different types of enemies and things like that.